Chapter 9, Japanese Civilization, and we are in Section 1 about early Japan. And previously, we learned about the geography of Japan, that it is an archipelago. And an archipelago is a composition of different islands. And also, it is notable that Japan, besides the fact that it is composed of different islands, it is in this what we call Ring of Fire. And the Ring of Fire, it means that there are series of volcanoes, and definitely it affects the life of many Japanese even today because of the potentials of earthquakes, lots of earthquakes, and tsunamis. And because of these geographic challenges, the Japanese were forced to be more creative, not just in surviving their environment, but as well as in thriving over these difficulties that they had. And because of this, they carry this attitude of, they call it kaizen. So they constantly in search for improvements in whatever they do. In lesson 2, we also learned about their early religions and cultures. And even to this point in time, Shintoism is the dominant religion in Japan. And Shintoism is greatly or generally tied up to the appreciation and worship of many different elements in the environment. That is the reason why in Japan, the environment is basically protected because of this religious practice. Shintoism basically is a polytheistic religion, meaning they worship many or different gods, and these are called kami, and it is in lesson 2. Now this time we will learn about Prince Shotoku and how the Japanese people established themselves into a powerful nation. Textbooks ready, or Lodi USD website, and from there Clever, and from Clever log into Cengage Learning, and from Cengage Learning, that is our National Geographic resource, and log in with your student account and password. Asians or Empires of Asia, and we are in Chapter 9, Japanese Civilization, Section 1, Early Japan. Specifically, it's in pages 242 to 243. And this chapter's essential question: how was Japanese civilization influenced by neighboring cultures? And Lesson 1.3's objective is to identify how Prince Utoku unified Japan using Chinese model of centralized government. Prince Shotoku unified Japan under his rule. So this lesson explains how he borrowed governing ideas from the Chinese and adapted them for Japan. Just like other civilizations, Japan before the 400s are ruled by different clans. And because of this, it is unavoidable to fight against each other. And amid of many clans, one grew increasingly powerful, and that is the Yamato Clan. And the Yamato, their advantage is that they rode horses, which is like fighting against tank if you will go against them during this time. And these horses were from Korea, and they imported them, and eventually they discovered the advantage of using this over foot soldiers, and because of this they have this military superiority, and they were able to control over many other clans. So by the 400s, these clans had united under the leadership of a Yamato emperor and his successors. Just like other civilizations, the Shinto claimed that their line of emperors was directly descended from the chief Shinto deity or god or goddess, the sun goddess, Amaterasu. So the Yamato effectively established a hereditary monarchy, meaning they are just passing the throne from one generation to the next in or within the member of their family. Unlike other civilizations, although there are so many wars, there are not much political transitions or changes within the power of the Japanese Empire or kingdom. But in 593, Japan took another political leap. Empress Suiko won the throne and named her 21-year-old nephew Prince Shotoku as her regent. This is in your key vocab. So a regent is a person who rules when a monarch or emperor is unable to do so. However, Shotoku held most of the real power in Japan, and he established the Japanese practice of having both a ruler in name only and an actual ruler. So between 593 to 622, Shotoku and Suiko laid the foundations of Japanese government. Prince Shotoku was a bright youngster who read extensively as a child. So the story goes that he once listened to 8 people at once and understood all that they said, eventually giving him the nickname the Prince of 8 Ears. That is very interesting. Now, let's talk about the centralized government and how China influenced Japanese government. So Shotoku was impressed by Chinese culture, and he introduced Chinese ideas and practices to help unite Japanese people and strengthen imperial control over them. Just like how the Sui dynasty were able to unite China after many years of civil war. Another influence is religion, Buddhism, and a centralized system of government or bureaucracy. In 604, Shotoku issued Japan's first constitution, meaning how the government govern its people. So he skillfully mixed Confucian and Buddhist ideas. The constitution emphasized obedience to the emperor and the emperor's duty to take care of his subjects. So Shotoku introduced ideas for Japanese government that lasted for hundreds of years. And that is the reason why, if you are not paying attention, it is so hard to distinguish what is Chinese culture to Japanese, and put the Koreans in the mix as well. So there are like so many overlapping influences or characteristics of these 3 civilizations, 3 group of cultures, and they greatly influence each other. And generally, of course, the mother culture of all these 3 is the Chinese civilization. So that is the reason why Japan, even today, as far as the form of writing and other, the food that they eat, is greatly influenced by Chinese civilization. So that is the influence of Prince Shotoku during this long reign of the Yamato Clan in Japan. Now let's go to the review and assess questions. Number 1, reading check. How did Prince Shotoku unify the Japanese people? And number 2, make inferences or guess. Why do you think Prince Shotoku stressed the fact that Japan had only one ruler? And number 3, form and support opinions. What do you consider to be Prince Shotoku's greatest accomplishment? Why? Go ahead, go to our Google Classroom and open the review and assess assignment. And it is section 1, Early Japan, and answer those questions. And our key vocab is regent. Don't forget to write your name, class period, and date. And of course, correct answers in complete sentences. Very important, using your own words. That will give you full credit. So that is our lesson, chapter 9, section 1.3, Prince Shotoku.